Despite the unpredictability of Donald Trump's unprecedented presidency, the monthly jobs reports keep saying positive and unemployment is under 5%. But it's nowhere near a sunny picture for all American workers, including the folks who work in brick-and-mortar retail stores. Those jobs have been disappearing rapidly over the past year or two as shopping online has become easier and shopping malls have lost a lot of their appeal.
Just a little bit. But what about here in Brooklyn, where small businesses line its main retail streets and mom and pop is to the economy what New York City water is to our bagel recipes? I'll take it every day.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, or is it that really, where are the jobs? Joining us to provide some answers are Gregg Bishop, the Commissioner for the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Welcome to BK Live.
Thank you.
And Andrew Hoan, President and CEO of the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. And welcome to BK Live, sir. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
All right. I just have to sort of frame the conversation in the terms of, we live in a gentrified Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. What are some of the difficulties businesses in Brooklyn are faced with in 2017?
Right. So thanks for having me. In our agency, we're tasked with helping businesses start, expand, and operate. And certainly all across the city, we've seen a lot of businesses start. In Brooklyn, and in particular changing neighborhoods, I think a lot of what we've seen is really helping businesses adapt to the changing environment. And that could be that the neighborhood is changing, or also consumer demand is changing. You alluded to the fact that, especially on the retail side, a lot of folks are shopping online, for example. So at Small Business Services, we run the NYC Business Solution Centers. We help businesses adapt to that. We have courses that are at no cost for businesses to really understand, like, how do I develop a web presence? How do I use social media to really sell my product now to the different consumers that's in my neighborhood? And then how do I use, especially if you're an independent mom and pop, how do I use, sort of the expertise that I have on my customer and the customer service to really attract more customers to my business?
Well, while you guys are helping folks attract businesses, the Brooklyn Chamber is continuing to attract business and getting people all of the resources and really connecting them as a strong community organization. So I wondered, how do you balance those different strains when there are mom and pops who are trying to stay afloat and expand, and big box retailers want to be a part of the Brooklyn experiment as well? So how do you guys synthesize both of those needs?
Well, you picked a hot topic, almost as hot as the weather, right? Gentrification is the elephant in the room, right? And people need to talk about it. Let's be frank. The issue of displacement affects not only residents, it also impacts the small business community, like you've said. And the Brooklyn Chamber works very closely with Gregg and his team at Small Business Services to make sure that small businesses across Brooklyn and New York City get the help that they need. But when you talk about the issue of displacement, it is the core piece of the Brooklyn economy. So the largest employer in the borough are hospitals and universities, far and away. The second largest employer is retail. So if you're talking about how to impact the jobs picture in the borough, it's all about mom and pop. And the good news, it's been growing. But the bad news is
mom and pop businesses have been growing.
You got it.
Okay,
say
that one more time.
Retail employment in the borough is increasing. But what is happening and what you're seeing at an increasing pace is the changing and displacement of businesses that people have a very deep and profound connection with. And we can take as an example not far from here, Madiba Restaurant, right? Yeah. Great article coming out about them. They've incurred hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt just trying to stay afloat. They're not even taking out debt to buy their building or to improve the restaurant. They're just trying to make ends meet. Right. And this is what's facing the borough right now.
And we recognize that there are longstanding businesses in different communities across the city, and especially in Brooklyn. And we launched a program called Love Your Local, which basically encourages New Yorkers to nominate their favorite business. And what we're going to be doing over the course of the next couple months is actually all the businesses that have been nominated, they're online. If you go to nyc.gov/loveyourlocal, those businesses will be eligible to apply for a grant of up to $90,000. And what we hope that they will use the grant, because we'll have have staff go out and actually do an assessment of the business and figure out how they can actually retool their business to really remain competitive. So whether you're in the restaurant industry, and certainly that industry has a lot of challenges as well, labor costs and workforce, or you're in retail, like how do you remain competitive with the different pressures that we see?
So talking about remaining competitive, I know you guys have the Shop Brooklyn campaign that we engage with all the time, and now hearing about this program as well. How do you get the message to consumers who say, no, this is success. This is like, oh, those guys are moving in.
Right.
I don't got to go to Jersey anymore.
Right.
To keep that balance and to know that we as consumers do have a responsibility.
Well, so first of all, thank you for doing this segment. That's one of the ways to really encourage and raise awareness that supporting small businesses, especially independent mom and pops, actually is helpful not only for the borough, but for our workforce. Small businesses are the economic engine of the city. It's not actually the corporations. Small businesses are the ones that are hiring. Even that little corner pop-up shop that opened, they're probably going to hire one person. And there's over 220,000 of those type of small businesses across the city, which is adding to our workforce. But we have done a huge campaign since Valentine's Day about Love Your Local and about the fact that we as a city are really supportive of our small businesses, our independent small businesses.
Well, speaking of independent small businesses, what is it that the sort of each of your organizations do in terms of, in this gentrifying Brooklyn with the rising rent costs, you find supermarkets and pharmacies, even gas stations, things of this nature, sort of disappear from the environment. How do we still have a vibrant economy when these services aren't available to people?
You're hitting on one of the most important issues. So I want to throw out a term. It's called retail leakage. Retail leakage. Write that one down.
Retail leakage.
That's right.
Okay.
So that is the amount of money that leaves Brooklyn every single year, really any location. It's a study of how much money leaves the borough, people taking their money and spending it in other locations.
Yep.
$6 billion. That's the amount of money that leaves Brooklyn every single year. We lose $6 billion of sales on retail to places like Staten Island, which is part of New York City. We love them. But we care more about Brooklyn. NASA.
Andrew cares more about
Brooklyn. Gregg has to be non-partial, although we know who he truly loves, right? But think about it, $6 billion. That's mostly in what you just said, automotive services, gas stations, mechanics, basic fundamentals, grocery stores.
Right. Well, I mean,
that money is leaving
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
You have to travel so far. I just think
like
when I get older, how far would I have to go to actually go to a supermarket?
Which is crazy to think that there's not enough supermarkets in a borough with 2.7 million people. Third largest city. I'm saying third largest because that's what I believe it to be.
Thank you.
But
like
it's critical to say, well, if you move just a fraction of the money that's leaving the borough every single year back to Brooklyn for basic fundamental goods, merchandise, services, with campaigns like Love Your Local, you have a win. $1 billion worth of that coming back to Brooklyn means hundreds, thousands of jobs.
And I think we work closely with business improvement districts, with local community development organizations, and with the Brooklyn Chamber to really help highlight in terms of putting together a retail attraction strategy. So certainly to help individuals understand this is the type of business that they should open up. I would say that we have made a huge investment in upfront legal services that we offer at no cost, because that's one of the issues. When a neighborhood changes, the rents go up. And certainly we have some limited tools in our toolbox to really help protect long-standing tenants to make sure that they're not harassed by their landlords to try to push them out. And certainly the one message that I would encourage every entrepreneur is please do not sign a lease until you actually come to us. And so we can help you not only understand the lease terms, but connect you with an attorney to really help protect you in the long term.
And this is something that your office provides every day
At
that
no
someone
cost.
can do for
Yes.
free. So one of the concerns too is we see speaking of gentrification, in some swaths of Brooklyn, I'm thinking of a corridor along Flatbush and also in Bed-Stuy, where you see this sort of retail brownout where people don't want their spaces occupied because they're thinking the big check is coming because, this
they stay
developer
vacant
just
because
bought this thing.
And it's not coming. I mean, you certainly, and Andrew could allude to it, I see this citywide. Landlords hold out for that retail tenant, and what landlords don't understand is that
create a desert.
the whole market has changed.
Yeah.
And when you have Polo closing their Fifth Avenue store, you recognize that the whole retail sector has changed.
Yeah.
And certainly what makes a neighborhood is really the independent mom and pops that makes it a destination. So I can actually go to this particular neighborhood and get a unique dish, or I can get a unique experience at a clothing store that I probably wouldn't have anywhere else. And that is important, and that's what we're trying to really encourage landlords to really stop waiting for that tenant, because they're not going to come.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the interesting points about this is that the way property taxes are structured now actually encourage those vacancies. You have a lower property tax burden if you have an unoccupied property. This is something that needs to be fixed fundamentally on the policy
we can
level.
legislate that.
Absolutely,
right
and
here
if
in
you
the
think
city.
about it, this mayor has done,
incentive, yeah.
and he has done a great job saying affordable housing. We need affordable housing, affordable housing. He's absolutely right, but we also need affordable commercial. And maybe this is something that we can all work towards, and it may not look like affordable housing, and it may not be perfect, but there's something we do need to do to encourage and incentivize landlords to populate their storefronts.
We're actually testing out in East New York. So as you know, we recently went through a rezoning in East New York. So the properties that the city will be developing will have commercial on the ground floor that will be in line with this, where we know that we're going to provide below market rent. So that we're going to pilot that and see how that works, and then that could be a policy that we can spread citywide.
Well, speaking of East New York, how will the repairs of the L train, which will be shut down for 15 to 18 months, how will that affect not only the residents, but the business owners along that entire corridor?
We've heard from the business community, of course, as you can imagine. I'm now going to
I really care about the business community. I'm more concerned about the residents. But
I'm going to
Sounds like a personal issue.
talk about how it's going to affect the
So now I'm going to take a page from the mayor. So our subway system is owned and operated by the MTA, which the governor is responsible for. We certainly are very focused on their plans, and certainly we've worked with the MTA in the past to make sure that whatever the final plan becomes, that we work closely together to mitigate any negative experiences that the businesses will have. I've seen it in the past where the infrastructure projects have a negative experience with businesses. We saw it with Second Avenue subway. I mean, those businesses, a lot of businesses closed because
So
of
what
Second
have we
Avenue
learned
construction.
from Second Avenue that we can apply to the L train corridor to make sure that businesses don't suffer? What's SBS prepared to
So
do?
I think making sure the businesses are planning now for the eventual what that impact will be. Increasing marketing so folks understand that when and then of course ensuring that there is some type of transportation. I mean, this is not a complete shutdown. I mean, there will be the ability for patrons to actually get across, but it's going to be either like a bus or whatever it is. So we want to make sure that folks know, and there's unique marketing, wayfinding types of campaigns that we can do to encourage people to, patronize those businesses
Is the
during the
city
period.
prepared to kick in any money in the form of a grant or something during this construction?
So unfortunately, with infrastructure projects, the MTA actually, with some projects, they do actually have a
we've
particular
seen
grant.
it's not unprecedented.
Right. So certainly, we'll work closely with the MTA to figure out what it is and then make sure we market it to those businesses so everyone is aware. And of course, I'm sure that we'll be working closely with the Brooklyn Chamber.
No question. We run something in partnership with the North Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce called the L Train Coalition. So we've surveyed hundreds and hundreds of businesses along this corridor, and they have made it very clear that their customers depend on this. And if you look at any other neighborhood in the borough or across the city, there's very few that are so dependent as that neighborhood on the L train. It is a lifeline. By the way, it's not just Brooklyn, it's Manhattan, but it's not just Williamsburg, it's also Canarsie, it's also Bushwick. You're talking a huge corridor. There's a few things that should definitely happen. Number one, all the things that worked on Second Avenue, marketing campaigns, all that sort of stuff needs to occur. Secondly, we've learned that it would be invaluable to have what you would call an ombudsperson, someone on the ground that is, a liaison. Yeah, the person that's there to say, hey, we got a problem here. So I think that's something critical.
And we do offer those services in general. We have an emergency response team. We respond after a disaster, and we see this as anytime there's an infrastructure project, we do see it as a disaster for small business. So we actually have programs to help businesses actually plan for foreseen disasters, but this is definitely something where we play a role.
So if there is a person who does have a business along this corridor, start yesterday in getting in touch with SBS to get on board with these marketing ideas and things that you can do preemptively.
Yeah.
News you
Absolutely.
can use again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have to add one. I read a statistic that said that half of American households now are on Amazon Prime, use Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Half. So you guys, we appreciate you, but you have your work cut out
this
for
is-
you
but-
to get
but
people out and shopping in New
I'm
York
telling
City and
you,
Brooklyn.
There's something about having an experience, a tangible experience in a local store that I think we are teaching small businesses how to capitalize on that, right? Because when you order online, you're not really sure what to expect, and then to go through the hassle of returning, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where our independent mom and pops could actually be very competitive.
Yeah, and then if you also look at so I'll throw a twist in about online. This is the home of Uncommon Goods and Etsy.
Yep.
Etsy is one of the largest private employers in the borough. And guess what? 500 people helping local artisans and maker community people sell their goods. So you know what? It's interesting. That business has grown by over 1,000 employees over the past few years. And you think about that, it's also impact on the ground. You have got to find a way where you can support local businesses day in and day out, while also being open to this idea that, hey, online is here. It's not going anywhere.
But at the end of the day,
Brooklyn.
It's
it is
Brooklyn.
the
I gotta
service.
stop you. We're
Yes.
out of time.
Oh, come
You're
on.
just gonna have to come down.
I
go
could be
spend
here all
our
day,
time this
of
one day.
course.
We can do a little shopping trip.
Oh,
Kyle, go
okay.
try on.
We're going to go shop local right now, right across the street.
There you go.
Thanks
Tell
for
them
having
Aaron
us.
sent you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you.